the reason you can't afford to spend more on ads and get more customers is not because your cost to acquire a customer is too high. It's because you don't make enough per customer. If that resonates with you, listen up. So I'm well caffeinated, had a great night of sleep. I just spoke to somebody and it got me excited about this topic, so I'm making a video about it. If you feel like your costs to get a customer is getting too high, if the market isn't good right now, which we all know, if things are getting tough in your company, you're trying to figure out how can I get my cost per appointment down, my cost to get a show down, or my close rate up, oftentimes those numbers can always be improved. But the big levers isn't there. The big levers is in asking yourself, can I afford to spend more money on ads? Can I afford to spend more money to get new customers and just scale what I'm doing and doing more of it? And if you cannot afford to do it, and you already have a CAC that you focused on for 6 months, a year, then oftentimes that's not the solution. Oftentimes the solution is in, how can I take my lifetime value per customer that actually signs up from 5, 10K to 50, 100K? That's what you sometimes need to ask yourself, right? I spoke to this guy just a minute ago, and I was actually calling references for a person we were going to bring onto the team. And it was a closer reference that I was calling for. And I asked him, how was the closer? Why are you no longer with him? And he said that they needed to let him go because they could not afford to keep a closer because the market was too bad and referrals were, or say customers were starting to cost too much to acquire through ads, so they couldn't afford to keep a closer on. So I went into my business coaching hat rather than just continuing the reference call, and digging a bit deeper, I found out that the reason he wasn't able to scale the company wasn't because his CAC was too high. Because I'll tell you what, his CAC was 2,000. And if you're working with local businesses, whether it's chiropractors or remodeling companies or architects or plumbers or med spas, doesn't matter. Your CAC is usually gonna be between $1,500 and $4,000. If it's under 1,500, you're freaking booming, and you are 1 out of a million, and you should scale that, and you should expect it to go up as you scale. And if it's above 4,000, you can usually get it down, unless you work with a hyper targeted niche that is really hard to get a hold of. For example, if you work with local businesses that do, then it wouldn't be local. If you work with national roofing companies that do above $100 million per year, then it's usually going to be higher. But if you work with a normal local business or brick and mortar business, you're usually going to be looking at costs to acquire customers of 1,500 to 4K. And if it's within that range and you still feel like costs are too high right now, it's usually not about getting your close rate to be higher, your ads to be more efficient, even though those things help. It's usually about figuring out how you can scale your lifetime value to the moon. Let me give you an analogy for this. If each customer that signed up with you made you $200,000 in their lifetime value, how much could you spend to affordably get a customer? They made you 200K. How much could you spend to get them? If you want at least a 3x ROI, which I would be looking for, then you could spend 75 grand, if my math isn't, 66 grand to be exact, to get that customer. And let me ask you, if you could spend 66K on ads to get a customer, or 66K on marketing to get a customer, do you think you could afford to get a new customer? You could, right? So oftentimes it's about asking myself, how can I get my lifetime value to be incredibly high? And I'm going to give you a few ways to get that to be the case in a minute, but I just want to land this point home, that please ask yourself, if my lifetime value was high enough, would I really care about the fact that my CAC is high, or would I just spend the shit out of this because it works? On the other side, imagine if you had 100K lifetime value. You would only need to sell 10 clients a year. 10 clients a year to be $1 million business. And if you want to be an 8-figure business, $10 million per year, you would only have to sell 9 clients a month. 9 clients a month to be able to be an 8-figure company, if your lifetime value was 100K. So I'm saying it once again, it's usually about increasing your lifetime value. If you have problems to scale, see if you can increase your lifetime value. Here's the last kicker on this. my last analogy before I talk about how to increase your lifetime value. So, Starbucks is a coffee shop. Most coffee shops have a lifetime value per customer of roughly $200, right? Because on average, when you buy coffee from a place, you're gonna buy a coffee from that place roughly 10 times in your life. That's assuming each coffee costs $20, including whatever you buy from that coffee shop. So $200. Now, if they want to spend, and that's lifetime value, that's not even gross profit. So if they want to get a customer, they can maybe spend $20, maybe $50 to get that customer. Now, guess what Starbucks lifetime value is? Guess what Starbucks lifetime value is? It's $14,000. You heard that right, $14,000. So, if coffee shops can afford to spend $20 to get a customer, if it's profitable to get a customer for $20K, how will you compete with Starbucks, who can spend, what's that, $3,000 to get a customer? They can get $3,000 for a customer, while you can spend $20 to $50 for a customer. Do you understand how absurd that is? Starbucks could have the worst marketing in the world. They can say our coffee is kind of average, and they could still get more customers than you could, because they can spend $3,000 to get that customer. And business becomes so easy when you have a high lifetime value, because you can have bad economics, bad market, bad cash flow, bad everything. Doesn't matter, because you're probably still going to be profitable, because you get so much per customer. You can just happen to stumble into something, and you're usually going to make it work if you have a high enough lifetime value. So, with that said, that's enough of me trying to convince you of why you need a high lifetime value. Let me talk about how to get a higher lifetime value. First one, most easy one, please just increase your prices. Most people are severely underpriced. I am 25% more expensive than the second most expensive option in my market. Actually, I'm 30% more expensive than the second most expensive option in my market. I am 3 times as expensive as the average in my market. 3 times as expensive. Have we lost clients from saying that we're too expensive? Of course we have. We probably lost 3 clients from it that would have signed up if we were cheaper last month. But here's a big but. We've also 5x our profit margin. And if we would have decreased our price by 2x, which is cut it in half, that's what the average business. What was that sound? I don't know if you guys just heard that, but that was a scary ass sound that I just heard. Anyways, if we would have cut our lifetime value, or say cost our, let me restart this, I got off track. If we would have cut our prices in half, we would have cut our lifetime value in half, and we would have cut our gross profits or our net profits by 50 percentage points, which would make us unprofitable, because we have less than 50% margins. So we would not have been a profitable business if we charge half, which is the industry average. And that's why most companies in our industry don't make a profit. Now, we do make a profit. And the reason we do make a profit is because we're charging such high prices. How do you charge such high prices? Number one, you just say a different price when you get to the end of the call. And trust me, more people will say no, but the total amount of money that you end up making is usually way higher. Try it out for 10 calls. Don't get sad when the first one says no. And usually a business can double their prices, and their close rate will go from 30% to 19%. And then they think that they have a closing rate problem. But you just doubled your profits, and your profits might have gone from 40% to 80%, all else being equal, right? So, that's my first point. Next point is make sure that you actually speak to your customers and ask them what is their problem. Most times we ask ourselves, how can we make our product better? But we don't actually ask our customers. For example, we kept trying to improve our partners' results over and over again and get them to stay longer until we just asked our customers, why do you leave, whenever they left? And everybody said the leads are shit. So we just figured out, what does the leads are shit really mean? And that meant, for us, that about 1 out of 5 appointments that they got was not qualified, because our appointment setting process wasn't dialed in enough. So the only change we made in our business was we added one person that could QC every single appointment after it was booked and cancel anything that wasn't qualified, and have a talk with that appointment setter so that they would improve. So this one person that cost $2,000 a month removed the number one indicator of churn. Guess what happened to our churn? Let me tell you. Went from 12% to 6%. Cut in half. 6% churn. Now, it's not on a huge data set. It's on the last 3 months. But nonetheless, it's a game changer. So usually, it might not be that easy of a solution, but usually it's a relatively easy solution. Just ask your partners or your customers, why do you leave? Why don't you want to keep paying us? And whatever their answer is, don't find a million fancy solutions to the problem. Just ask yourself, how can we solve this one problem? And then just solve that one problem, right? Next one is you can decrease costs. I'm not a huge fan of this one because you can only decrease costs to 0. You can't scale it by 1000x or whatever. But this one is one that most people don't look at, which is you can decrease your costs from spending $100 to deliver a customer per month to $50, and then you double your profit margin on that. Another one that probably most people that are watching this video can improve is adding more of continuity. So Alex Hormozi wrote a book about this called $100 Million Money Models. He has a whole chapter on continuity offers. But basically, continuity offers is where you get somebody to continue paying you. If you're a coach, for example, the guy I just spoke to on the phone right before making this video, he sold a $10K one-time offer, and then he had a mastermind. He wasn't really pushing the mastermind. Some people bought it. And he said that the customers that bought the mastermind would end up paying him another $20K lifetime. Right? So if he would have focused on how can I just get everybody to join the mastermind, number one. Secondly, make the mastermind so valuable so that nobody wants to leave it. And the average person stays in the mastermind for 5 years. Then he probably would have been able to spend enough to get customers again. But he was just focused on his first offer and how can we increase close rates there, rather than being like, how can we take our average lifetime value from 14K, which I think they had, to getting somebody to pay that 20K a year for 5 years in a row, which would have been 100K, plus the 10K offer, 110K lifetime value. That's what he should have been able to do. So that one is probably the biggest one. How can we make sure that continuity is the main focus of the business and getting churn really low and just provide an insane amount of value and get really good at what you do. It's simple. If you're a marketing company, figure out how to get somebody good leads, not a million other things. Just all my clients liking the leads I get them. If not, don't focus on anything else in the business. Just make sure that they enjoy the leads that they get and that they think that the leads are good. Here's the next one. This one is really slept on. It's probably one of those secrets that I don't really want to give out because I know that this is going to make my competition be even harder to beat, but it's a big enough market for all of us to be rich, so I don't care. This one is huge, and I wish that I focused on this one earlier. Affiliate sales. If you are my business, you can make an affiliate with a materials company, with a financing company, with a funding company, with a tools company, with a CRM, with a social media management company, with a website company, with a, what else can I think of? With a merch company, with a truck company. So many different companies that you can make affiliates with. And then if you just make the math on this, let's say that you can make affiliates with 30% of what a remodeling company spends their money on. And let's say that they spend, if they're making $1 million a year, they're probably spending $800,000 a year. If you can get 30% of that, that's roughly, I suck at math, but it's $250K. If you can get $250K from your customers, or if you can get your customers to spend 250K on things you're affiliated to, and then you can on average get 5% of that, then we're talking about 12.5K of 100% net margins on something that has 100% net margins on. 12.5K added to your lifetime value. Plus, you have to do no work for it, and most importantly, your customers appreciate you more for making the introduction rather than seeing you as trying to sell them something else. So what I'm saying, to be more specific, is when a customer comes on board to you, look at what's the things they're going to have to pay for, and how can I find them a better alternative? How can I make an affiliate deal with that company so that we make a bit of money every time we refer a customer over to them? For example, this for us, it was a cabinet manufacturer, where the cabinet manufacturer on average gets 10% of whatever somebody's revenue is. So if a company that we work with is making 5 million a year, they're paying 500K to that manufacturer. And if they're spending 500K a year and we refer them over to this manufacturer, we're going to get 5% of that, which is how much? 25K. So we added 25K to our lifetime gross profit, not just value, but our lifetime gross profit per customer for every person that we refer to this material company. So all of our focus goes on referring people to the material company, having a whole nother sales pitch of why this material company is better than every other material company, right? Now, financing. We know that our customers sell at a higher percentage when they have a financing company. So what do? We made a deal with the best financing dealer out there and made sure that we could get 1% commissions every time that we refer a financing deal, or we refer a customer to the financing company. And that ended up with us being able to get another 1% of whatever the company's revenue was. So if a company is doing 5 million a year, we're getting another, what's that? 50,000 from there. And obviously that's not if they do 100% of their revenue finance, which they don't always do, but still, it's an insane percentage. So this is how you can really get rich. Plus, this is what nobody talks about. Here's how you can get true passive income, because you do no extra work for it. So, once again, let me recap the whole video. This was mainly to myself. I make these videos to force lessons upon myself, because teaching is the best way of learning. But my point is, if your lifetime value, or say if your CAC is too high, your CAC is probably not too high, your lifetime value is probably just too low. How can you increase your lifetime value? Through a few things. Number one, you increase your prices. Number two, you fix the big obvious thing that makes people not like your product. Number three, you ask for more referrals. I didn't even mention that one. That one's fire. Ask for more referrals and give a referral incentive. Number four, focus more on continuity and getting back-end offers that makes people want to continue paying you. Don't just have one offer that's a one-time payment. Fifth, affiliate deals. Make sure that you can get affiliate deals with different companies that your customers will have to use anyways. And that can probably add another $5,000 a month if you do it right, depending on what your customer is. $5,000 a month in lifetime gross profit, which is more than most people even charge. So this can be making you more money than your main business. Insane. This is still brutal to me. So yeah, insane for me to understand, and hopefully that helps somebody out there. I'll see you guys soon. Goodbye.